Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pursuit of Relentless podcast. Today, we have our first return guest on the show, and I'm so excited for you guys to hear from Angela Bradford because she has just absolutely transformed her life and her business over the last couple of years since our last episode. So welcome back to the show.
It's so good to be back. I love it. Thanks, Alaina.
Yeah, so today I really wanted to focus in not so much on your story. I mean, tell your story a little bit for the listeners who haven't heard it, but I would like to focus on just how personal development has changed the way that you run your business and the way that it's impacted your life. So yeah, take it away.
My favorite topic. I love it. So yeah, real brief, go back and listen to my first episode way back, whenever that was. I don't even know, but basically, long story short, homeschool, dyslexic, truck driver, turned into financial brokerage owner across Canada, the US. And we've been expanding quite rapidly across both countries. And it's been, a lot of fun. And personal development has played a huge role in the expansion because we don't attract or we don't become who we want to be. We become who we are and we attract who we are. And so in order for our life to change, we need to change. And that was something that, was really impacted into me about 4, 5, 6 years ago, I guess now. And I've just been really on a journey of self-reflection and self-change in order for my circumstances to change.
That's amazing. So what type of stuff do you do for personal development?
So man, I do a lot. Reading's huge. I love reading. So I read every day, about 45 minutes every day. Big part of my life. Let me see what else. Meditation, I do that. I try to do that every day. Some days I'm going to say I don't do every day, but I do quite a bit of that. I also do affirmations that I do every day. I read my goals out loud every day, morning and night. Journal every day. Pray every day. And I go to a lot of events. Or try to pray every day. Anyway, I go to a lot of events too, like live events, in-person events, Zoom events, all the events, with anyone that I feel is farther ahead than I am that I can learn from.
Yeah, I love
those are a few things.
That's amazing. Very, really tangible tips there. And I think that that's really important because when you're going through your journey and you're like, okay, I want to improve, I want to get better. And I know everyone who's listening to the show is in that boat. It's like, yeah, but what do I do? What do I do to get better and develop myself and improve? And I think that even for myself, I read every day. Am I perfect on everything? Not even a little bit. But I know that when you're focused on where you're going instead of where you were, then you're growing regardless of if you're trying or not, because you're focused on what you're trying to put into the universe, right? So I'm reading the book that you told me to read, The Mirror of Life. And it's just like, it's blowing my mind. I'm loving it because it's just reflection on yourself and like what you're putting out into the world. And I'm like, I think that that's a massive piece of why I'm happy is because I'm focused on where we're going, right? Instead of just dwelling in the past and focusing on the negatives and like who I was. But then I think about what Ed said, and it's like, you've never been this version of yourself before. And I'm like, so all of the new things that are coming up, that's new and exciting, and some things are challenging and frustrating, but it's like, you've never been that version of yourself before. So embrace this version of yourself and see what you're capable of now. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, so true. I mean, we never outgrow our identity. So in order for our life to change, we need to change our identity of ourselves. And some of the ways in order to change your identity is by keeping a huge thing is keeping the promises to yourself. And I think that, I was just talking to someone else about this the other day. And I think that, a lot of people don't do that. They don't keep the promises to themselves. And if you can't keep the promises to yourself, you won't keep it to others. And when you don't keep it to others, you start to know yourself as who you are, which is a person that doesn't keep their promises. And, that's not a high identity thought process. So identity, really starts to shift whenever you start to keep the promises. And I think one of the biggest tips that I give is don't set your goals too high so they're unachievable. You want to have a huge vision, but like your daily activity, for me, I don't set very high goals. When I got back in the gym, I never was really in the gym. When I got into the gym, in May, I said I committed to 1 day a week, and they questioned me. They said, "Are you sure? Can you commit tomorrow?" I said, "No, I can commit to 1 day a week." And I go 5 days a week, and I'm super happy about that. And I started doing that right away, and I just felt like a real winner because I committed to 1 day, but I was doing 5 days. And so I set my like daily activity really low and really doable. And then when I crush it, I feel like a freaking champion, which blows my self-esteem up, which blows my self-confidence up, which then changes my identity.
Yeah, that
So
is so smart. I love that.
we'll set small goals daily. Big vision, small goals.
Because when you're focused on just like, okay, it is the daily repetitions. And if you're whatever it is, if you're going for a walk, you're going for a bike ride, if you're taking care of your fitness, that's a check mark and you can like pat yourself on the back. And I think that when I first started my personal development journey, that was the biggest thing for me is I had to track my habits. And I remember being a part of your accountability chat. And I did that now with my team. And I'm like, wow, it's so powerful because then you can see that you're actually making progress in the right direction. Because you're like, oh no, I did do my reading today. I did read my goals. I did do some exercise. And I think it really helped me build my identity because in the beginning of this business, I really did not believe that I was the person who was going to be that multimillionaire and like building this massive company and like changing the world and doing all these great things. And then the more that you progress, the more that you're like, oh no, all I have to do is run the success formula. And everyone's success formula is going to look a little bit different. But there's a lot of things that the successful people do that I've observed over the years. And a lot of it is just keeping a positive mindset and positive habits and not letting your brain take over when you're like, I don't want to do this. So I think you're very, very, very good at that when it comes to pushing yourself through, but also letting yourself rest when your body needs it, because obviously MS is a really challenging disease. And when you think about that and you go, oh, you could be in the victim mentality or you can thrive, right? And go, hey, I'm not going to let this hold me back. If I can go and do a 10-minute walk today, I can. But I don't know, how do you think that's impacted you with your habits?
Well, I'm reading a really good book called Leadership Gold. It's an old John Maxwell book. I read it in like 2017. He wrote it in 2008. So it's very good. I gotta say, I highly recommend it. And in it, he says, our life is defined by something about the defining moments in our life is what defines us. And that's really where we grow. And we can look back at almost anyone's life and look back at where the defining moments are. And, you can grow either way, I guess, at those points. And I would say one of my huge defining moments, obviously, was when I was diagnosed with MS, and then really had to think about it and figure out what it was and all the stuff. And that's like, that was a massive, massive growth shift for me. So, I'm so grateful for that because I would definitely not be the person I am today without that, 3 years ago. But those are the things that determine our life, those massive, massive, like things, good or bad, that come in our life, or however we want to look at it, good or bad as an interpretation. But those massive defining moments that come in our life, and we can decide if they're good and bad or bad, and we can decide where our life goes from them. And so MS has just been one of those things that just continually, I guess, redefines my world. And in a good way, because I can, grow from it and change from it. And it just kind of like takes control. I don't have a lot of control sometimes over it. And because of that, I just kind of have to change. I mean, I don't really have an option sometimes. We were walking the other day here, and I'm down here in Arizona right now, and it's, really nice out. And anyway, we were walking, and I was walking with my friend Karen, and she said something about, I said, thank you for waiting with me, because her husband, was going up to meet the person or whatever. So he went up to do that, which is awesome. And she was just staying slow with me because I wasn't obviously walking super fast. And I said, thank you for, staying slow with me. And she says, yeah, like, it's like, I really have to consciously think of slowing down. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And I was always the fastest walker. I was always able to keep up. And so, like, it's just interesting how you have to, reevaluate your whole life when something like that comes into your life, which is what happened with me. And, but it's been the best thing that's happened and the biggest growth opportunity. So I'm grateful for it.
I love that you said just being conscious of having to slow down. And you think about that in the context of life too. And it's those moments when you should slow down and go, hey, I need to take care of my body. I need to take care of my
Mhm.
mindset. I need to take care of me, because if I don't do my best for
Mhm.
myself, then how can I be my best for other people? Right.
Mhm.
And sometimes that takes making hard choices, or like be sacrificing being able to walk fast just to be able to push yourself and do the baby steps, right? It's like, no, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going, and I'm not going to let it defeat me. And that's so powerful, so powerful. And that's what makes you such a great leader, is the fact that you just don't let things drag you down and defeat you. And I think that's why you've become so successful, and everyone just like is thriving around you. And I love watching that, because it's not just you winning, it's not just like, oh, I'm a big shot. No, it's not like that at all. It's like, no, I can't wait to tell you how many people I've got coming to convention, or like, I'm going to promote all these people and it's going to be awesome. And I just watch that and I'm like, yeah, I love it. And it's so inspiring to other people around you. And then even people that aren't involved in our business, it's literally just helping them redefine who they are and find that new identity for themselves too. And it's challenging other people to go, hey, if she can do it, I can do it. And I think
Yeah.
that's really powerful too.
I'll share a win. I just had it today. It was one of my agents. And so this agent is, she's incredible. She's out in Manitoba. And, so she has to fly to the events and stuff. And so we, said, hey, we got an event coming up and you got to come. And we convinced her and she got the ticket and she's, but here's what's so cool. So she bought the ticket and, the money thing was, I just explained to her, it's how you think, it's how you think, it's how you think when it comes to money. And anyway, she got the ticket. She's in, and then really cool today. I was talking to her. She signed up for some coaching with the guy that we've had around, Joe, and so she signed up for some coaching with him on her own. And I know what it costs, and it's not like super cheap. It's like in the thousands. And so I was like, dang, like a few months ago, or not even like a month ago, I was like trying to like really make her come to an event that was a couple $100, and now she's buying a course that's a couple $1,000 because she just said, I said, wow, I said, I'm like this, I said, this is so exciting, I'm so glad you signed up for that. And she says, well, I realize, it's how I think. And I'm like, dang, like, she just started her business within the last year, she just got licensed. And I'm like, this is a complete change from where you were. And, it's so neat to see. I'm like, just keep doing this. She says, I could learn all about insurance, but unless I change my mindset, I'll never talk to people. I'm like, you're so right. So, yeah, just really, really, really proud of her. And that just happened this afternoon. I had to talk to her. So it's just really, really cool how like what we do, our people around us will do. And, yeah, I'm really excited for her to do this and sign up and learn
Well,
more.
I'll tell you, you've pushed me even like without knowing it. It's like, remember when I was like, it says on my vision board, develop your visualization practice. And you're like, well, come to Mexico, let's go to Joe
Let's
Dispenza.
go.
And
Yeah.
I was like, that just like blew my mind, because I didn't even consider that that was a possibility. You know what I mean? And then once we went and just got to spend time with incredible people and developing our mindset and learning and growing, and you just go, huh, I didn't realize how much that was going to change me. I
Mhm.
didn't realize how much that could impact my life, just learning how to meditate and how to calm down and how to breathe, and the
Mhm.
difference between um, like all of the scientific facts that I learned. And I'm like, whoa, this is just blowing my mind, right? But it's become something for me. Like I did this morning, I went to last night too. I did a meditation class and pranayama, which is breathing exercises, right? And it just helps you really calm your nerves and just go, hey, we're going to be present right here, right now. And that is something that I never had before. I was always just in super high stress, anxiety. I'd smoke a bunch of pot to try and, stop that. And then I was like, well, that's not helping. And so now I'm taking lavender oil. It's working really good.
Oh, that's
But
awesome.
it's just crazy to see how much you can change just by making those little commitments to yourself, going, hey, I put it on my goals list that I'm going to develop my visualization practice. And I didn't even know what that meant to me, right? I hadn't defined what that meant to me. And then it was just this opportunity that comes your way. And you're like, oh, this is what it was talking about. Like, this is what I needed, or this is what I was looking for. And then there was other times that you pushed me, like when I had my first miscarriage. You were like, you got to go Facebook Live. And I was like, I don't want to. And you're like, Alaina, it's going to help you heal. And I'll tell you, it was so freeing. And it seriously did just help me overcome the that pit in my stomach that I was like, I can't talk about this, and it was just so freeing that you're like, I talk about my MS all the time. Like, what do you mean you can't talk about it? And I was like, wow. And then I had probably like 30 different people reach out to me going, me too. And like, hey, thanks for sharing. And I don't know, there's just something about community, and there's something about sharing it with the world and putting yourself out there and being vulnerable and going, hey, this is my goal. And you can you believe that I'm going to accomplish it or not, but I'm going to put it out there that I'm going to do this. And I think that's why the first time I did 75 hard, I went fully like on Facebook, on Instagram, and was just posting my progress pictures. And I was like, so terrified of that because I had never been so overweight in my life. And I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter, because people are going to watch your progress and they're going to see you winning, and they're going to see you being dedicated and being committed to showing up for them. And then they're going to change their habits too. And I had people around me going, yeah, I lost 20 pounds, that kind of thing. And I'm like, wow, that's incredible. Or like, hey, I never read before doing this 75 hard challenge. And I was like, yeah, I didn't read before I met our company either. I just didn't even think about that. Like, you don't think about it. When you're in high school, you read books. When you leave high school, you don't really read books unless it's something you did as a kid, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there is so much knowledge to learn from books. And it's just crazy. Like you were talking about John Maxwell. Man, how much has that changed your life? Just being associated with John Maxwell and someone who's into leadership development and like really teaching people how to uncover their lid, right? He calls it the law of the lid, where you're holding yourself back because you're saying, this is the leader that I am, but maybe not. Maybe you're so much better than that and bigger than that. And you can just expand your mind to believe that you're capable of so much better.
Yeah, 100%.
John Maxwell, check him out. He's worth listening to for sure.
Absolutely.
So leadership wise, what shifted for you over the last couple of years to go, hey, I'm running a small agency, my team's doing good, but we just didn't have that fire. And then now Team Reach, right, is just doing some incredible things. And that's a group of really intense people and just powerhouses that are on a mission to change lives. But that all comes from a team culture. So maybe if you could give us some tips on building a good team culture, that would be really awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing obviously is the speed of the leader determines the speed of the pack. So, I mean, that's, to me, that's number one. I mean, if the leader's on fire, the team will be on fire. I think it was, I don't remember who it was, John Wesley or some pastor, he said, like, set me on fire and watch me burn, and people should come from miles around. And, that's really the mindset that has been installed into me is like, what, if I'm on fire, my team will eventually be on fire. And so you just got to like be on enough of a go that, when people are near you, the sparks catch them on fire. I don't know how to put it, but so I think that's the number one thing, is creating that. The second thing is to be really clear in what you want. What's your core values, and what are you rewarding people for? And so, we talk a lot about, what they're doing, they're studying, their activity, they're, really trying to build people up for the activity, not necessarily for the results as much. And really like encouraging the core values of, helping each other. And, I was just saying that to my leadership team this morning. I said, you guys are amazing. I was thinking of other teams and last night, and I was just like, man, there's some new people in the business that have just fired up and I'm blowing it through the roof as far as results. But when I was thinking about them, I'm glad they're not on my team. And, and it was interesting thought last night, because I was like, it's not just about the results. I'm like, well, if I had someone like this on my team blowing up, I'm like, yeah, but I love people on my team. And the reason, I mean, they're so awesome is because they fit in the culture. And if they don't fit in the culture, they end up leaving.
Mhm.
And, because they just get blown out because our culture is so about, helping people and building the relationships and, growth mindset. And if they're all just about like making money and doing all that, it's not really our culture. We don't really don't talk about that much. I mean, we talk about getting people paid, but not on a big scale. It's a different mindset.
Mhm.
Um, Talk about recruiting like crazy because that changes lives in a massive, massive way. So, it's just all about like what we talk about, and then obviously, trickling down to my leadership and what they talk about, because then they go down to the next levels. And just making sure that people are. I think those are some tips. Like, as a leader, what kind of pace are you setting? Are you always on fire? Are you always on the go? And if your team did what you did, would they win? And or did half of what you did, would they win? And so really, really concentrating on that, and then just really concentrating on creating that culture. What culture do you want? Being really intentional about building it, and training your leaders on how to build it too. Like, hey, can you post about this? Hey, can you do a video about this? Hey, so we got to train people how to be leaders. It's not like an overnight thing. We got to mentor our people just like we're mentored. So, and then that's the other thing, like how coachable. I really try to stay close to the fire above me. I try to stay close to, my leadership and the people that, surround me, and really focus on where they're at and how they can help me. And I guess those are my biggest things when I think about it, is like, being coachable, being the example, and then helping mentor my leaders so that they can help, everyone else. At the same time, just continually growing so that they'll never outgrow you. So you have to keep your law of the lid, like you were saying, up so that you can keep recruiting and keep building and keep attracting higher quality people into your life and into your business, by becoming that person and growing that identity.
Yeah, I love that. Ed Milet has a podcast called Changing Your Identity. And I seriously, when I was on my haul truck as a heavy equipment operator, I listened to that podcast on repeat. It's one of his very first episodes. And I think I probably listened to it 100 times because it was so impactful for me. Just
So
listening to the
good.
fact that you can become something better than you are today. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I've never been told that before, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And just listening to people around you that are encouraging you and winning at a higher level. And you're just like, hey, you may be in a completely different industry than I am, but what are you doing to win? And bouncing ideas off of each other and collaborating and going, hey, like you said, being coachable to other people and understanding that there's so much to learn. And you may think you know everything, even if you've been in the business for 10 or 20 years, but you can literally learn something from everybody. And I think that's really impactful as well, because when you're going into conversations and you think you're the best at everything, you're shutting yourself down to learning. And I know I do that sometimes, and I catch myself and I'm like, shut up, Alaina, like stop talking. Because I just know that there's more to learn and there's more to grow with. And I look at my example and I'm like, am I doing everything I can be doing? Probably not. Like, I definitely could be more excited. I could be more rested. I could be more active, and I read and I do my goals and all that kind of stuff. But I look at my team and I'm like, they're not reaching out to me. So maybe I'm not reaching out to them enough, or, stuff like that. And I think it's impactful to just like do a review of where you're at in your business. And I love that you're saying to go with the core values and like talk about that and praise people based on the core values. And that's a big thing in my organization as well, is going through all of that kind of stuff. So our team wrap up meeting at the end of the year was like, I didn't do awards for how much production they put on the board or how many recruits they had. I recognized people on their core values, leading from the front and like being coachable and going the extra mile and never giving up, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was even more impactful, because then I can tell a story about that person and why I'm giving them that award, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's been incredible. So anyways, any tips that you want to give people that maybe not where they want to be right now, that are like, I know I can do this. I'm just like right there, but they're still just, they feel like they're starting that locomotive, but it's like the hardest to like get that one wheel turning, What advice could you give them?
Um, Focus on one thing at a time, and figure out what is it that you think would move your wheel the most. What is the one thing that would change your life the most? Is it reading? Is it audio? Is it what is it? And really stepping into your strength zone instead of your weakness. Most people try to work on their weaknesses, but just make them mediocre. So stepping into your strength zone, and what is it that makes you strong? Are you good with people? Then let's talk to lots of people. Are you good with products? And let's learn about products. If you're what's your strength zone? And really and hire people to do the rest, because that's something that I'm definitely work on. But if I stay in my strength zone, I'm just way more happy, which means the results are way better. So really staying in that, I think, is, like I said, one thing, and then just one thing at a time. Not trying to change your whole course of your life in one day, but what's one thing you can do? Okay, I could start to make one call a day. Okay, that's probably pretty doable. Or I can start to, I don't know, go for a walk every day, like you were talking about, or I can, just something. What can you do every day? And I just think make it baby plan. Make it really small, not so massively oh my gosh, I'm going to start going to the gym 3 hours a day. No, you're not. It's just not. So, and then you're going to fall down and you're going to be oh, I can't do it. You're going to quit. So set your goals really low and then blow by them. That's just something I've really done. Okay, I'm going to read 1 page a day. Then you're two. Well, holy moly, you're winning. You're crushing it. I love it. So then you feel good.
Yeah. It's the, like Trevor Jong says, the next to nothing plan.
Yeah.
I love that he talks about that too, because when you're struggling, and I know for myself, if I'm having a rough day, I start my day out with reading. If I don't want to get up in the morning, I start my day out with reading, because I know it's going to be the thing that I don't do if I don't do it first thing. And if I start my day with reading, that's a check mark. And I'm I did it. Okay.
Yeah.
Next, what's next? Okay. Drinking my water. All right. Instead of going and getting a coffee, I got a tea, and I'm just focused on getting the water intake and eating healthy. So today I had a chicken soup that I made for myself, and it was homemade, made my own broth, made my own soup, stuff like that. And that's really important to me, especially at this time in my life when I'm trying to be my healthiest. And I'm okay, well, what's next? Rock a couple appointments, and then not being I don't work Sundays. Well, I worked this Sunday and I made a bunch of money. And I was well, that's pretty cool. I don't mind working Sundays if it's going to benefit everybody, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Being flexible, like you were talking about earlier as well, I think is important.
Yeah. I like that.
So I want people to learn about what you're doing in your podcast as well. So tell us a little bit about One Starfish and why you started it and what it's all about and where they can find it.
Sounds good. Well, I'm sure it'll be in the show notes. I'm sure we can get it in there. But it's One Starfish with Angela Bradford, and it's based on the poem of the boy on the beach throwing starfishes into the water. Can't save them all, but you can save just this one. And so I just think we're all on this earth for a purpose. And, maybe we're just here to save one person's life and to help one person. And maybe that one person is you, but helping one person. And so that's the whole purpose, is to just be a difference, be a light for one person. The other day I always said I want on my gravestone, she changed the world. And I just changed it. The other day. I wanted to say she changed herself, because we can never change other people. We can only change ourselves. So in order to make a difference, we just have to change ourselves. So really, when it comes down to it, got to change yourself, and that's the purpose of the podcast, because then through that we can help change other people, I think.
And how much have you learned since you started podcasting from other people?
It's so good. I just love doing interviews. I've got some really awesome guests on my podcast. Alaina is, of course, one of my first guests, which is awesome. So definitely check that out. And we are we've had so many good people on there. People that run organizations within John Maxwell's leadership and stuff like that are just a world of information and knowledge. And it's just really fun to chat with them and pick their brain and, and learn for everyone else to listen to also. But to be able to listen for myself is kind of the selfish reason that I really enjoy it.
But that's why it's so great, because you're learning from all these people. And it's guess what? They've made mistakes so that you don't have to. And you can learn from their wisdom and just go, hey, what would you do in this situation? Like, I know I bounce a lot of ideas off of you and I vent to you, and you're just a huge, yeah, contributor to my success for sure. And I appreciate you. And I know you know that, but I just
Appreciate you
look
too.
at it and I'm like, there's so much that we can do if we just commit to being our best self and going, hey, no, today, so up here it says, today I believe that I will unleash my full potential. And for me, it says to relax and to trust that I'm creating exactly what I've always dreamt of. And
Mm.
it's just like these little quotes that I say to myself, or like the questions that I ask myself. Ed Milet posted the other day the questions that he asks himself in the morning. And
Mhm.
man, they're so powerful. And for me, I wrote on my bathroom mirror, like, who do I aspire to be? Because I want to be an aspirational leader. And that doesn't just happen, right? I want people to look at me and be like, what did she do? Like, wow, look at this incredible human. Like Tony Robbins feeding billions of people. Like, I look at those people and I go, you're a good guy, like, good for you. I love what you're doing. And I just want people to be able to know that they can do the same thing if they focus on it. So helping out in your community and just being kind and helping others around you, it's so impactful, even if you don't realize that you're helping them, right? By throwing that one starfish in the water.
Mhm.
It's going, hey, I'm giving you a chance to win and I'm giving you a chance to thrive. And you're either going to take it or you're not. And so my advice to you guys would be to take it. And like Angela said, one step at a time, and try not to overwhelm yourself with a
Mhm.
million different things. And you have to do all of this stuff at once. And nope. For me, it was reading. Like, I just knew that that was the one thing I had to start with because it's the thing I found the hardest was to read. And now I don't know what I'd do without reading. I'm like, I've learned so much out of books. And I'm
Mhm.
also reading The Power of the Subconscious Mind. And I'm just like, oh man, it's so good. So there's just so much knowledge that you can get out of books. And I think that we can really we can really develop ourselves and really challenge that identity if we go, hey, what can we do today that's going to get us where we want to go? Whether that's the one phone call, whether that's the one podcast you listen to, or instead of listening to music while you're driving, listening to a podcast, or while you're cooking or whatever. I think that has helped me a lot for sure. But anyways, we are almost out of time, but I want to just open the floor up to you and just let you say your farewells and tell people where to get access to you. I will definitely post her podcast in the show notes and her social media because she's doing awesome things on her social media too. So, yeah, any closing comments that you want to leave with the audience?
For sure. So, yeah, everything will be in the show notes. Follow me on Instagram, real Angela Bradford. I love to connect. Um, I guess the biggest thing is, don't look at where you're going, like where do you want to go and really figure out where you're going. And just remember to focus on that as much as you can. I still get sidetracked sometimes from my singular focus. Today was one of those days. I was way too much on like scrolling this and that. But like just focus on where you're going and take the steps necessary just day in and day out to get there. And work toward becoming the person that you were meant to be and grow yourself into the person you're meant to be. When you grow yourself into that person, the people that are meant to be in your life will start to surround you also. And that's when you'll start to make a difference in yourself and in the lives of those around you. And, obviously, Alaina is absolutely incredible. So I'm glad you're listening to a podcast because it's incredible. And she's just, yeah, she's one of those people that you definitely want in your bubble. And I'm really grateful that she's in my bubble because I know that she would do anything. I needed a ride once from the border and she offered to drive, which is 13 hours to come pick me up one way. It just blew my mind. It blows a lot of people's minds. So, if you haven't reached out to Alaina personally and are just listening in, definitely reach out to her too, and hear her story because it's incredible and where she's going and where she's been and where she's going is, it's just inspiring. So thank you so much for having me on your podcast. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. And I know everyone got a ton out of today's episode. So if you did, we are a holistically grown podcast. So make sure that you share it with a friend. I know my episode with Angela is episode 3. of the original episode. But I love that you can now go back and listen to that one and listen to this one and just see how much growth has happened, even in both of us, right? And like, I remember I was like shaking and like so nervous, and now it's like, this is normal. We have a good time. And no, I love, being in your presence. And I just know that you're doing just such incredible things for people and sharing the knowledge and just having no ego. You're just like, no, we're here to share the information. We're here to give it to everybody and just to really help everyone thrive. So that's what I call the pursuit of relentless, is just really going out and putting yourself out there and going, hey, today I'm going to aim to be better than I was yesterday. Even if I wasn't perfect yesterday, I'm going to try and not necessarily aim for perfection, but I'm aiming for better today than I was yesterday. So yeah, beautiful. Thank you again for today. Make sure you share the show and drop us a comment at alainanadig.com. And there's a section there that you can go on and actually send me a message if you have an idea for the show that you're like, I want you to interview this person, or like, I really want to know about this. So I had one girl message me and go, hey, I want to know what it was like to write a book. And I was like, I can do that. So that's coming. I will make sure to have that, because that guest is a really good person who has helped me a lot as well. So yeah, anyways, I'm babbling. But I thank you again. And loyal listeners, you're appreciated. We'll see you next time. Pursuit of Relentless, signing out.